The demolition of a church in South Delhi's Faridabad on July 12th has sparked protests across India. Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, who was in Delhi, called the demolition shocking. The Syro Malabar Church expressed anguish over the destruction of Little Flower Church in Faridabad in Delhi. It was the spiritual home of over 1,500 faithful Christians from around 450 families in the area. Tensions have been rising in the Christian community regarding this specific topic. This incident, when analyzed critically, along with other issues of minorities oppression in India, such as riots, mob lynchings, aggressive attacks, media hate campaigns, discrimination, marginalization, segregation, oppression and suppression, and subjugation to torture, prompts us to ask certain important questions. Does the demolition of church cast a shadow on the secular nature of our country? Are the minorities' rights secured in India? Are Muslims and Christians, who make up a major portion of the minority groups, safe in India? Why does the government seem tolerant of hate campaigns against these minority communities? Welcome to Newscape, and today we are going to analyze the case of minority suppression and systemic oppression. As incidents of collective and individual discrimination, violence and atrocities against Muslims and Christians in India continue to rise, particularly against Dalit and Adivasi groups, the atmosphere under which India's Christian and Muslim citizens are living is one of terror and existential threat. The volume and types of disinformation against these communities continue to rise and multiply on a daily basis. Images and videos involving the denigration of Muslims and Christians, particularly a refusal to have blood transfusions given by them, a connection of them and their faith and worship with the spread of the virus, economic boycotts of goods and products sold by religious minorities, accusations that they deliberately infect Hindus and more, appear repeatedly on mainstream and social media platforms and apps. And only a small number of these are ever retracted or taken down. Meanwhile, vigilante mob lynchings and attacks, state harassments, attempts to drive Muslims and Christians from their land and homes, and censorship have not lessened, but are rather metamorphosing in new and disturbing ways. Against a backdrop of super spreader events run by Hindutva groups and organizations for the BJP's assembly election campaigns in 5 states and for various Hindu religious festivals, the primary targets of COVID-related disinformation are human rights defenders, Muslims and Christians. In particular, those working as journalists, medics or engaging in relief work and political dissonance. On the 25th April 2021, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh threatened to confiscate the property and attack the workplaces of those medics and ordinary citizens appealing for oxygen or medicines online, characterizing such appeals as the spread of false information about the state. Hospitals are likewise under surveillance in case they publicize their dire need. Almost uniformly, we find that those who are actually being persecuted for these crimes tend to be Christian or Muslim. A research study conducted by the London School of Economics and Political Science has comprehensively detailed out the recent attacks against Christian and Muslim minorities and how the media is being used as a weapon to propagate disinformation and promote communal hate. The research report is titled Destructive Lies. Violence against Christians has been prevalent, including the murder of Australian missionary Graham Staines and his family in 1992. The violence against Christians peaked in 2007 to 2010 period, most notably in 2008 in Kandhamal, Odisha, where more than 600 villages were ransacked, 5,600 houses were looted and burned, and 54,000 people left homeless. At least 39 Christians were killed and 232 churches destroyed as per the National People's Tribunal report, although many human rights groups would argue that the actual numbers were much higher. Even before this incident, in 2002, under the leadership of then Gujarat Chief Minister Narendra Modi, more than 2,000 Muslims were systematically killed in a pogrom and tens of thousands of Muslims were rendered homeless. Since the rule of BJP from 2014 under Narendra Modi, violence against religious minorities has risen steadily and exponentially. Apart from regular spectacular incidents of mob lynching, even daily life for many religious minority groups is now marked by fear and a sense of abandonment from their fellow beings as well as from the government. When the BJP came to power in the central government, regional leaders at the state level and downwards have all or less internalized that the targeting of religious minority groups will yield electoral results. Therefore, anti-Christian and anti-Muslim rhetoric and action is perceived as a proxy for addressing economic problems, infrastructural development, and so on. As a result, right from the highest office of the Prime Minister all the way down to the district or village level officials, Indian government machinery has in different ways sanctioned the persecution of religious minorities. The Prime Minister himself has failed to address the vigilantism by maintaining a studied silence. Meanwhile, state-level governments have passed laws that provide pretext for indiscriminate arrest of young Muslim men on the charge of love jihad and the arrest or levying of fines against Christians for converting Hindus, marrying Christians, or claiming benefits. These laws and the daily harassment and violence that they enable are perceived by citizens loyal to the government and the Hindutva politics as leaders staying true to the Hindutva cause by converting political rhetoric into concrete legislation. Police officials refuse or inordinately delay the filing of complaints against Hindu vigilantes. If after much efforts, religious minority groups succeed in filing a complaint, then the police are quick to file a counter-complaint by the vigilantes. In notable cases, the police have been onlookers and even enabled vigilante mobs to perpetrate violence with impunity as they target religious minorities with excessive and disproportionate charges for attempting to fight back or gain justice formally. The rationale for these tactics is to tie courageous Muslims, Christians, and human rights defenders with so much paperwork and legal procedure that most of them become discouraged or give up altogether. Administrative officials delay compensation or use government machinery to demolish homes and intimidate religious minorities with various kinds of paperwork. In the lower courts, judges do not take these cases seriously, fail to hold governments accountable, and on other occasions have allowed cases to drag on for years and years, leading to petitioners losing all expectations of getting justice. Overall, the complete abandonment of religious minorities by both their elected representatives as well as the government machinery has left them with an overwhelming sense of isolation, since they are already living in oppressive social conditions surrounded by a culture of majoritarianism. After witnessing firsthand the selective application of laws and rules against them and in favor of the majority groups, they are feeling a sense of resignation about their own future. What will the future hold for these people on the verge of existential crisis? Will they have to continue to suffer more? When will India wake up to understand the plight of minorities who have been suppressed and oppressed systematically by those in power? Only time will tell.